Welcome back to Bright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful milled gown. As you can see right here, it has ruffles on the down piece. So I actually made this dress for a plus size. You can see my dress form is not the same with the bust area, but I just want to show you what I made. So to start off this tutorial, I'm making use of a chiffon fabric. So I'm making use of 6 yards. And my lining, I'm using a lycra lining of 3 yards. So right here, I'm going to start up with the drafting. So you are going to draft first your chest point, your bust point, under bust, and half length. Then you count 5 inches downwards from your half length for the back's part. So I repeat the same measurement on the other side to get a straight line. So this is my shoulder line, my chest line, bust point, under bust, waist, and the back line. So this is the center front, and this is my shoulder, chest, bust point, under bust, waist, and back line. So I'm going to go in by my shoulder, divide by 4, by 2 I'll mark it on the shoulder line, and I will come down by 1 inch for my shoulder drop. The neckline width is 3 inches. Then I get the midpoint and go in by 0.75. Then mark my bust circumference, divide by 4. Of course, you know how to go about this part. So I'll connect my armhole on that point. Then I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm using 4.5 inches for this. From the bust point, I'm going to mark it to the back line. And there I'm going to connect my dart line. So after connecting the dart line, I'll go in by half an inch on both sides of the back line and connect my dart line. So the next thing is to take the measurement of I'm going to take the measurement of that nipple to nipple point at the upper piece. So if you look at it, it gave me 7.5 inches on that point. So the neckline can be 7.5 or 7 inches. Okay, so I'm going to rule my line at 7 inches. So let me work with 7 inches. That 7 inches line, I'll come down by 1 inch for my neckline, and I'll slant my ruler and connect the neckline. So, but before that, I'll come in by half an inch for the bust bridge. Then take the bust bridge down to the under bust. Then I'll connect my neckline. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to mark out the cup. So you can see how I curved in the cup. And I'm going to measure my bust span, divide by 2, add half an inch on the side because the side bust is fuller. So after I'm done connecting this, I'm going to take the measurement of my bust, divide by 4, my waist, divide by 4. I'm going to mark, then add in the dart. So the dart there is 1 inch. So I'll just go in and add in the 1 inch dart. And I'm going to connect the back line too. So whatever I have on that waistline, I'm going to mark it on the back line as well. Then I'll just connect it straight to that point. So the next thing I'm going to do right away is to come up by 1 inch on that, or 1.5 inch on that back line, and connect the back effect. It just have a little back effect at that point anyway. So I'm going to cut out what I have on my pattern, as you can see right there. So but I'm going to add my seam allowance of 1.5 inch. So you can add 1 inch or 1.5 of your seam allowance. So I added my seam allowance 1.5 inches right there. So I just cut out what I have on the neckline. Then I'm going to draft the back right away by placing the front on top of the paper. So I'm marking out my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches too. So I'm going to mark out the zipper allowance all the way straight, as you can see. So now I'm going to place the center front to that zipper line. So I'm going to place the center front at that zipper line and then secure with my pins. So after that is done, I'll simply go ahead and trace out what I have all through. So I just trace out what I have on the front to the back piece of the paper. So but at that half length, okay, the back does not have any basque, so I have to mark out that point. So I'm going to contour the back point, as you can see, with 1 inch and replace it on the side by 1 inch too. So I just marked out the 1 inch I used to contour the back, and I'll place my pattern ruler this way just to replace it, because we are going to cut out the contour part right now. So for the back neckline, I'll just lift off my paper and just connect from that point straight for the back. So we are done with the back. Now we are going to cut it out. So I'll just go ahead and draw a straight line from that point, because there's no basque at the back, so I have to cut it out a little bit above the point. So the dart, we are supposed to close the dart before we trace out the back. So please don't forget to trace out to close up the dart before you trace the back, please. So I'll just go ahead and close that dart right now. Then place it back on that line. I'm going to place it back on that line and now trace it properly. So I'm going to trace it properly, although the difference is not that much, but it's good you close up the dart so you'll be able to get the exact measurement. So I'll secure it with my pins, as you can see right there. So once I secure with my pins, I'll go ahead and trace this again. So I'm tracing it right now once again. So I'll trace out appropriately. So I think I've made the necessary adjustment right now. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut out the back piece. So I'll go ahead and cut, as you can see right there. So I'll take off the front, so I will see the back very, very well and cut. So here you can see the contour line, so I'll just go ahead and cut off that contour line, as you can see. So here is the front piece and this is the back piece. So we are going to use this pattern right now to cut out the MILKMAID corset part. So I'll just cut out that corset part, then we are going to slash and spread. So I've already splitted it into 6 pieces. So I'm going to cut them out. The spacing right here, I use 1.5 inches to space it. You can use 2 inches if you want. So I bring a plain pattern paper and I'm going to use my adhesive right now. I'm going to space this slash and spread at 2.5 inches. So I spread at 2.5 inches. So as I'm arranging it, I'm trying to arrange it to have that curvy shape. Okay, that cup shape that we cut out. Make sure it has that curvy shape like that. So I keep taking the measurement and applying my adhesive accordingly. So like that. I keep taking it and applying my adhesive that way. So this is what I got. So I'm going to trace it out, but I realized that last part, okay, that last part, number 6, I just felt it made the armhole wide. So I'll just bring it close to have my actual armhole. So please don't just slash it into 5 and bring these 5 and 6 together as one because of the armhole, or else it will give you a wider armhole. So I'm going to cut out right now. So you can see how I'm cutting out the shape of that cup, but this time around we've added some more fabric to it to have the gathers. So we are done with the slash and spread, and this is what I got. So we are going to gather it up and down to come back to the right cup. So now I'm going to cut out my patterns. These are my patterns for the front and back. I'll go ahead to cut it out. So but before I cut it out, we are going to cut out the flap part from these 6 yards. Okay, so from these 6 yards, this is the dress I'm making. I'm just trying to show you what we are going to calculate right now. So you can see the down part, which has a ruche. So the length of this dress is 66 inches. Okay, that is the full length. Then I have 19 inches at the half length. I'm going to cut 29 inches at the middle length and 18 inches. That gave me 66. So we are working on the 29 inches, which is the flap part right now. So this flap part, I'm cutting 180 degrees, and I'm using 3.14 constant. Okay, it's a constant for 180 degrees flap. So the waist is 42. I divided it by 3.14 and I got 14 inches as my radius. And the length I'm cutting is 29 inches. So if you put 14 and 29 together, it will give you 43. So this 43 inches right now, I'm using 2.5 or 2.5 yards for it. So from my 6 yards, I'm going to cut out 2.5 yards. So I've already cut out the 2.5 yards. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put that 2.5 yards together, end to end. So I put it end to end. And right here, I'm going to take the radius, which I just calculated. So I'm going to mark out the radius right now at 14 inches, which we calculated. So I'm going to mark out 14 inches. So I'll mark 14 inches like this, like that. I'll keep marking 14 inches. 14 inches. I'll keep marking 14 inches all the way. So that is my radius right now. So from that radius I have now, I'm going to mark out the length. So if you want to find out if it gave you the length, just measure. You will get the circumference exactly. Multiply by 2. So now from the radius, I'm going to take the length of the flap. So the length of the flap is 29. So I'll keep marking 29. So which I've done right now. This is the 180 degrees flap which I've cut. I've cut out the radius and I've cut out the length. Okay. So here is the flap. So I'm going to place this flap on top of my lining. My lining, I used 3 yards, but 2.5 yards is what I placed. And I've cut out exactly the same measurements. So the flap part is ready right now, as you can see. So I'm going to set it aside and we'll continue with the cutting. So I also cut out another 2.5 yards. Okay. So this 2.5 yards is for the down piece. I'm going to use it to ruffle the down piece. So the rest of my fabric I cut out from around the pieces is what I used to cut this MILKMAID. So now I added half an inch all over my cup area. And I also added half an inch on the upper piece and the down piece of the back piece. I've already cut out my lining and I hasted my fabric. So I'll just make a notch at the zipper allowance. So for the front, I also placed the front on fold, both lining and fabric, and I added half an inch around the cup area. I already have my seam allowance on the side, so I didn't bother to put any seam allowance. So next, I'm going to open up the fabric to sew. So we are going to sew right now. Now this is the front piece. Make sure you hairstay the fabric because it wobbles a lot, and we are going to sew our boning channels. So I'll just mark out 5 boning channels for the front, at the center front, at the bust area, and at the side of it. So after marking the boning channels, I space my boning channels at 4 inches. So it depends on your body size anyway. So I will go ahead to sew my boning channels right now. So I'm still marking that point, and I believe you know how to mark out your boning channels. So here I'm still marking on the boning channel. I'm using my Redlin boning of 0.5 inches, and I've cut out my strip at 1.5 inches. So I'm done sewing the boning channels, as you can see, for front and back. So the next thing we are going to do now is to sew the MILKMAID cup. So I hasted the fabric like I said, but the lining I did not haste it. So I'm going to place the lining and the fabric right now. I'm placing it on top of it. The same with the other piece. And I'll go over to my machine. I'm going to use a gather stitches to run all the way apart from the armhole part. So I've gathered, and I'm going to ruche or gather that part. So I'll go ahead and gather and gather and gather the down piece. This down piece is going to go into the cup. So here I'll gather it to go into the cup area, as you can see. So next, the upper piece, as you can see, don't forget to take the measurement of the upper piece. So to know exactly how, or the measurement of the upper piece you are going to gather, I'll come in back with that my pattern once again. Before we slash and spread, make sure you take the measurement of the upper piece. So I'm taking the measurement of the white piece right now, and here I got 7.5 inches. So this 7.5 inches is what I'm going to use to take the measurement of the upper gathers of this cup. So if I'm going to take the measurement to make sure that the gathers is exactly at 7.5 inches. So I've taken that measurement. So we are going to gather a little more if the measurement is too much, or if the gathers is not up to that point. So I keep taking it to be sure I have the 7.5 inches. So my cup is ready right now. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for the both cups, and I gave it a little press. So you can see the armhole area, I did not gather on it. So we are going to bring in the men dress right now, and I'm going to stitch the men dress. The cup area, I'm going to place it this way. Before the armhole, I'll sew in the gathered piece, which I've done. So next is to bring in the lining. You can see I didn't get up to that point. I left half an inch to sew the lining. So I placed the lining right side to right side, and I'm done stitching, and I top stitched. So you can see that half an inch has to be there for the rope piece. So this is how I'm going to turn this part. Okay, so you have to invert it the other way. Then secure with your pins on one side. So just invert it so you'll be able to sew that piece accordingly. So I'll keep pinning it like that, and once I'm done, I'll go over to the machine, and I'm going to stitch in that lining piece to cover up the cup. So I'll pin, as you can see, and then I'll go ahead to stitch. Alright, so I've stitched, and this is what I have. So I'll just turn it the other way for you to see what I have. So next, I'm going to stitch the other part. So to stitch the other piece, you also turn it this other way. You can see how I turned it. So this part can be a little bit difficult to sew, but I try sewing it, and you can see how it is before I turn. So I'm going to turn it to the right side. So I try turning it to the right side, and this is what I got. And this is what the back looks like after I'm done sewing. So the next thing is the rope. So I've stitched the strip, on top. So this is how I stitched it. The length of my strip is 30 inches and the width is 2 inches. So I marked that 7.5 on it and now place the cup. I place the cup wrong side to the right side, wrong side to the right side, secure with my pin. I've stitched it and I'm going to fold in half an inch and top stitch on top of it like that till I get to the end of that piece. So here the strip is ready. So this is the part you are going to tie. So the upper piece of this dress for the front part is ready. So we'll begin to attach the sides. Okay, fabric to fabric, lining to lining. Remember the seam allowance is 1.5 inches. So I will bring the lining piece. I'll also stitch them 1.5 inches like that. So I'm done sewing and this is what I got. So next I'll turn in the neckline and I'm going to stitch the neckline at 1/2 inch, as you can see, and I top stitch on it as well. So the upper piece is fully ready right now. So now I will go in and bring in that flare that we cut earlier and I'm going to locate the center front area. So you are going to notch the center front area of the flare. So your flare you will sew in your flare perfectly. So now I'm going to match center front to center front of my flare and I've already stitched it, as you can see. I also did the same for the lining, as you can see. So after that, we are going to close up the zipper part. Remember the zipper part was 1.5 inches. So I'm going to sew off 1/2 inch so it will remain 1 inch for us after sewing. So after sewing, this is what I got. I gave it a good press as well. So I'm going to sew in my zipper. So I'll just align my zipper and sew. So here is my zipper and I've stitched at 1 inch zipper allowance. So next, we are almost done with the dress. So the next thing we are going to do is to bring in that 2.5 yards. Okay, so we are going to fold the 2.5 yards into 4 and then we are going to also fold it again because the length of that ruche part is 18 inches. Okay, so we got 18 inches. So I'm going to first split the part I folded, so everything will be on a straight piece for me. So we are going to cut out from that 2.5 yards. We are going to cut out 18 inches like that. So I folded it into 4 and as I'm splitting it, it will automatically give us 18 inches. So I have 4 pieces right there. I'm going to join all the pieces I just cut out, the 4 pieces right now. I'm going to join them and I've already weaved it as well. So you have to weave and then I've already run my gather stitches on it as well. So what I'm going to do now is to make gathers on one piece of it. So I'll make gathers on one piece of it, as you can see right here. So my gathers are ready for that part. So I'm going to bring in the down piece of the dress. I also gather the down piece of it. So make sure you gather the both so you have a smooth sewing. So I'm going to place it from one end. Okay, I folded 1 inch before I gathered. So I will stitch on top of it. As I'm sewing, I'll be gathering and I'll be filling the gather. So I'm done and this is the gathered ruche part, as you can see. So we are cutting out the sleeve right now. The remaining piece of my fabric is 1 yard and I folded it into 4 pieces and the length I cut it out at 25. So you can see what I have right there. So the folded part right now, I'm going to cut it out. Okay, I folded my fabric into 4 but I choose to cut the other folded part, so I will have 2 sleeves. So after cutting my sleeve, I'll go over to the machine and fold in 1/2 inch and another 3/4 inch. So after folding, this is what I got for up and down of my sleeve. So I'm going to put them together once again because we need to cut out the armhole right away. So I'm going to place it this way, then bring the armhole part of the dress. So this is how I'm placing the armhole part of the dress, like this. Just watch how I'm placing it. So I'll place it this way, and then I'm going to cut out. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out, as you can see. So that is the armhole. So now I'm going to bring in my elastic. For the upper piece of my elastic, I'm going to cut out 10 inches of my elastic. This is 10 inches and the down is 8 inches, the sleeve area. So I'm going to use my safety pin right now, and I'll pass it through the upper piece of my sleeve. So once I get to this point, I'll not allow it to go too in. I'm going to stitch on it. So I've passed my elastic for up and down. I'll put it together, and I'm going to sew my sleeve at 1/2 inch. So once I'm done sewing, the next thing is to bring up the armhole area of the sleeve. So you can see the armhole area of the sleeve. I'm going to match it up with the armhole area of the dress. So on the same line to the same line, I'm going to secure with my pin. So I'll secure my pin all the way through like that. So once I'm done securing with my pin, the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch 1/2 inch all around. And I've done that for the bow sleeve, and the dress is ready. So we are done with this tutorial right now, and I believe you learned a lot from this class. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment on the comment sections and your suggestion as well. Thank you for coming, and we upload video on this channel every day. Kindly click on the subscribe button and share this video. Thank you. Bye.